1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. Book 3, Chapter 2. Aomame. Alone, but not lonely. When it got dark, she sat on a chair on the balcony and gazed out at the playground across the street. This was the most important part of her daily schedule, the focal point of her life. On sunny days, cloudy days, even when it rained, she kept a close watch, without missing a day. As October came around, the air grew cooler. On cold nights, she wore many layers, kept a blanket for her legs, and sipped hot cocoa. She watched the slide until 10:30, then took a leisurely bath to warm herself up and went to bed. Of course, there was a possibility that Tengo might appear, even in the daytime, but most likely he wouldn't. If he was going to show up at the park, it would be after the mercury vapor lamp went on and the moon was in the sky. Aomame had a quick supper, dressed so she could run outside, straightened her hair, then sat down on a garden chair and fixed her gaze on the slide. She always had an automatic pistol and a pair of small Nikon binoculars with her, fearing that Tengo might appear if she went inside to the bathroom. She restricted her drinks to the hot cocoa. Aomame kept up her watch without missing a day. She didn't read. She didn't listen to music, just stared at the park, her ears poised to catch any sound outside. She rarely even changed her position in the chair. She would raise her head from time to time, and if it was a cloudless night, looked at the sky to make sure there were still 2 moons. And then she would quickly shift her gaze back to the park. As Aomame kept a close watch on the park, the moons kept a close watch over her. But Tengo didn't come. Not many people visited the playground at night. Occasionally, young lovers would appear. They would sit on a bench, hold hands, and, like a pair of tiny birds, exchange a few short, nervous kisses. But the park was too small and too well lit. Soon they would grow restless and move on. Someone might show up to use the public toilet, find the door locked, and go away disappointed or perhaps angry. The occasional office worker on his way home from work would sometimes sit alone on the bench, head bowed, undoubtedly hoping to sober up. Or maybe he just didn't want to go straight home, and there was an old man who took his dog for a walk late at night. Both the dog and the man were taciturn and looked like they had given up all hope. Most of the time, though, the playground was empty at night. Not even a cat ran across it. Just the mercury vapor lamp's anonymous light illuminating the swings, the slide, the sandbox, the locked public toilet. When Aomame looked at this scene for a long time, she began to feel as if she had been abandoned on a deserted planet. Like that movie that showed the world after a nuclear war. What was the title? On the Beach. Still, Aomame sat there, her mind focused as she kept watch over the playground, as if she were a sailor who had climbed a tall mast and was scanning the vast ocean in search of schools of fish, or the ominous shadow of a periscope. Her watchful pair of eyes were on the lookout for one thing only: Tengo Kawana. Perhaps Tengo lived in some other town and had just happened to be passing by that night. In that case, the chances of his revisiting this park were close to zero. But Aomame didn't think so. When he sat on the slide that night, something about his manner and his clothes made her feel that he was taking a late-night stroll in the neighborhood, that he had stopped by the park and climbed up the slide, probably to get a better look at the moons, which meant he must live within walking distance. In the Koenji district, it wasn't easy to find a place to see the moon. The area was mostly flat, with hardly any tall buildings from which you could look at the sky. This made the slide and the playground a decent place to do so. It was quiet and no one would bother you. If he decided he wanted to look at the moon again, he would show up. Aomame was certain of it, but then the next moment, a thought struck her. Things might not work out that easily. Maybe he's already found a better place to view the moon. Aomame gave a short, decisive shake of her head. She shouldn't overthink things. The only choice I have is to believe that Tengo will return to this playground, and to wait here patiently until he does. I can't leave. This is the only point of contact between him and me. Aomame hadn't pulled the trigger. It was the beginning of September. She was standing in a turnout on the Metropolitan Expressway No. 3, in the midst of a traffic jam, bathed in bright morning sunlight as she stuck the black muzzle of a Heckler & Koch in her mouth. Dressed in a Junko Shimada suit and Charles Jourdan high heels, people were watching her from their cars, as if something was about to occur, but they had no idea what. There was a middle-aged woman in a silver Mercedes coupe. There were sun-tanned men looking down at her from the high cab of a freight truck. Aomame planned to blow her brains out right before their very eyes with a 9mm bullet. Taking her life was the only way she could vanish from this 1Q84 world. That way she would be able to save Tengo's life. At least Lida had promised that. He had promised that much and sought his own death. Aomame didn't find it particularly disappointing that she had to die. Everything, she felt, had already been decided ever since she was first pulled into this 1Q84 world. I'm just following the plan that has already been laid out, continuing to live alone in this unreasonable world, where there are two moons in the sky, one large, one small, where something called little people control the destiny of others. What meaning could it have, anyway? In the end, though, she didn't pull the trigger. At the last moment, she relaxed her right index finger and removed the muzzle from her mouth. Like a person surfacing from deep underwater, she took a long breath and exhaled, as if replacing every molecule of air within her. She stopped moving toward death because she had heard a distant voice. At that point, she was in a soundless space. From the moment she put pressure on the trigger, all noise around her vanished. She was wrapped in silence, as if at the bottom of a pool. Down there, death was neither dark nor fearful. Like amniotic fluid to a fetus, it was natural, self-evident. This isn't so bad, Aomame thought, and almost smiled. That was when she heard a voice. The voice sounded far away, as if coming from a distant time. she didn't recognize it. It reached her only after many twists and turns, and in the process it lost its original tone and timbre. What was left was a hollow echo, stripped of meaning. Still within that sound, our mommy could detect a warmth she hadn't felt for years. The voice seemed to be calling her name. She relaxed her finger on the trigger, narrowed her eyes and listened carefully, trying to hear the words the voice was saying, but all she could make out, or thought that she made out, was her name. The rest was wind whistling through a hollow space. In the end, the voice grew distant, lost any meaning at all, and was absorbed into the silence. The void enveloping her disappeared, and, as if a cork had been pulled, the noise and clamour around her rushed in, and she no longer wanted to die. Maybe I can see Tango one more time at that little playground, she thought. I can die after that. I'll take a chance on that happening. Living, not dying, means the possibility of seeing Tango again. I want to live, she decided. It was a strange feeling. Had she ever experienced that feeling before in her life? She released the hammer of the automatic pistol, set the safety, and put it inside her shoulder bag. She straightened up, put on her sunglasses, and walked in the opposite direction of traffic back to her taxi. People silently watched her in her high heels, striding down the expressway. She didn't have to walk for long. Even in the traffic jam, her taxi had managed to inch forward and had come up to where she was now standing. Our mommy knocked on the window and the driver lowered it. Can I get in again? The driver hesitated. The thing you put in your mouth over there looked like a pistol. It was. A real one. No way, our mommy replied, curling her lips. The driver opened the door and she climbed in. She took the bag off her shoulder and laid it on the seat and wiped her mouth with her handkerchief. She could still taste the metal and the residue of gun oil. So, did you find an emergency stairway? The driver asked. Our mommy shook her head. I'm not surprised. I've never heard of an emergency stairway anywhere around here, the driver said. Would you still like to get off at Ikejiri exit? Yes, that would be fine, our mommy replied. The driver rolled down his window, stuck his hand out, and pulled over into the right lane in front of a large bus. The meter in the cab was unchanged from when she had gotten out. Our mommy leaned back against the seat and, breathing slowly, she gazed at the familiar Esso billboard. The huge tiger was looking in her direction, smiling with a gas hose in his paw. Put a tiger in your tank, the ad read. Put a tiger in your tank, she whispered. Excuse me? The driver said, glancing at her in the rear view mirror. Nothing, just talking to myself. I think I'll stay alive here a bit longer and see with my own eyes what's going to happen. I can still die after that. It won't be too late. Probably. The day after she gave up on killing herself, Tamaru called her. So our mommy told him that the plan had changed, that she was going to stay put and not change her name or get plastic surgery. On the other end of the line, Tamaru was silent. Several theories noiselessly aligned themselves in his mind. In other words, you're saying you don't want to move to another location. Correct, Aomami replied. "I'd like to stay here for the time being." "That place is not set up to hide someone for an extended period." "If I stay inside and don't go out, they shouldn't find me." "Don't underestimate them," Tamaru said. "They will do everything they can to pinpoint who you are and hunt you down. And you won't be the only one in danger. It could involve those around you. If that happens, I could be put in a difficult position." "I'm very sorry about that, but I need a bit more time." "A bit more time? That's a little vague," Tamaru said. "That's the only way I can put it." Tamaru was silent in thought. He seemed to have sensed how firm her decision was. "I have to keep my priorities straight," he said. "Do you understand that?" "I think so." Tamaru was silent and then continued. "All right. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. Since you insist on staying, you must have your reasons." "I do," Aomame said. Tamaru briefly cleared his throat. "As I have told you before, we have committed to take you someplace safe and far away to erase any trail, change your face and name. Maybe it won't be a total transformation, but as close to total as we can manage. I thought we were agreed on this." "Of course I understand. I'm not saying I don't like the plan itself. It's just that something unexpected occurred, and I need to stay put for a while longer." "I am not authorized to say yes or no to this," Tamaru said, making a faint sound in the back of his throat. "It might take a while to get an answer." "I'll be here," Aomami said. "Glad to hear it," Tamaru said, and hung up. The phone rang the next morning, just before 9. 3 rings, then it stopped, and rang again. It had to be Tamaru. Tamaru launched right in without saying hello. "Madam is also concerned about you staying there for very long. It is just a safe house, and is not totally secure. Both of us agree that it's best to move you somewhere far away, somewhere more secure. Do you follow me?" "I do." "But you are a calm, cautious person. You don't make stupid mistakes. And I know you are committed. We trust you implicitly."
"I appreciate that."
"If you insist that you want to stay in that place for a bit longer, then you must have your reasons. We don't know what your rationale is, but I'm sure it's not just a whim. So, she is thinking that she would like to follow your wishes as much as she can."
Aomame said nothing.
Tamaru continued. "You can stay there until the end of the year, but that's the limit."
"After the first of the year, then, I need to move to another place."
"Please understand, we're doing our very best to respect your wishes."
"I understand," Aomame said. "I'll be here until the end of the year. Then I will move." But this wasn't her real intention. She didn't plan to take one step out of this apartment until she saw Tengo again. If she mentioned this now, though, complications would set in. She could delay things for over 3 months, until the end of the year. After that, she would consider what to do next.
"Fine," Tamaru said. "We'll deliver food and other necessities once a week. At 1 p.m. each Tuesday, the supply masters will stop by. They have a key, so they can get in on their own. They will only go to the kitchen, nowhere else. While they are at the apartment, I want you to go into the back bedroom and lock the door. Don't show your face, or speak. When they are leaving, they will ring the doorbell once, then you can come out of the bedroom. If there's anything special you need, let me know right now, and I'll have it included in the next delivery.
It would be nice to have equipment so I could do some strength training, Almame said. There's only so much you can do exercising and stretching without equipment.
Full-scale gym equipment is out of the question, but we could supply some home equipment, the kind that doesn't take up much space.
Something very basic would be fine, Almame said.
A stationary bike and some auxiliary equipment for strength training. Would that do?
That would be great. If possible, I'd also like to get a metal softball bat.
Tamaru was silent for a few seconds.
A bat has many uses, Almame explained. Just having it next to me makes me calm. It's like I grew up with a bat in my hand.
Okay, I'll get one for you, Tamaru said. If you think of anything else you need, write it on a piece of paper and leave it on the kitchen counter. I'll make sure you get it the next time we bring supplies.
Thank you, but I think I have everything I need.
What about books and videos and the like?
I can't think of anything I particularly want.
What about Proust's In Search of Lost Time? Tamaru asked. If you've never read it, this would be a good opportunity to read the whole thing.
Have you read it?
No. I've never been in jail or had to hide out for a long time. Someone once said unless you have those kinds of opportunities, you can't read the whole of Proust.
Do you know anybody who has read the whole thing?
I've known some people who have spent a long period in jail, but none were the type to be interested in Proust.
I'd like to give it a try, Almame said. If you can get a hold of those books, bring them the next time you bring supplies.
Actually, I already got them for you, Tamaru said.
The so-called supply masters came on Tuesday afternoon at 1 p.m. on the dot. As instructed, Almame went into the back bedroom, locked it from the inside, and tried not to make a sound. She heard the front door being unlocked and people opening the door and coming in. Almame had no idea what kind of people these supply masters were. From the sounds they made, she got the feeling that there were two of them, but she didn't hear any voices. They carried in several boxes and silently went about putting things away. She heard them at the sink, rinsing off the food they had bought and then stacking it in the fridge. They must have decided beforehand who would be in charge of what. They unwrapped some boxes and she could hear them folding up the wrapping paper in containers. It sounded like they were wrapping up the kitchen garbage as well. Almame couldn't take the bag of garbage downstairs to the collection spot, so she had to have somebody take it for her. The people seemed to do their work efficiently, with no wasted effort. They tried not to make any unnecessary noise, and their footsteps too were quiet. They were finished in about 20 minutes. Then they opened the front door and left. She heard them lock the front door from the outside, and then the doorbell rang once as a signal. To be on the safe side, Almame waited 15 minutes. Then she exited the bedroom, made sure no one else was there, and locked the deadbolt on the front door. The large fridge was crammed full of a week's worth of food. This time, it wasn't the kind of food you popped in the microwave, but mostly fresh groceries. A variety of fruits and vegetables, fish and meat, tofu, wakame, and natto. Milk, cheese, and orange juice. A dozen eggs. So there wouldn't be any extra garbage. They had taken everything out of their original containers and then neatly re-wrapped them in a plastic wrap. They had done a good job understanding the type of food she normally ate. How would they know this? She wondered. A stationary bicycle was set down next to the window, a small but high-end model. The digital display on it showed speed, distance, and calories burned. You could also monitor RPMs and heart rate. There was a bench press to work on abs, deltoids, and triceps, the kind of equipment that was easy to assemble and disassemble. Our mommy was quite familiar with it. It was the newest type, a very simple design, yet very effective. With these two pieces of equipment, she would have no trouble keeping in shape. A metal bat in a soft case was there as well. Our mommy took it out of the case and took a few swings. The shiny, new silver bat swished sharply through the air. The old familiar heft of it calmed her. The feel of the bat in her hands brought back memories of her teenage years and the time she had spent with Tamaki Otsuka. All 7 volumes of In Search of Lost Time were piled up on the dining table. They were not new copies, but they appeared to be unread. Our mommy flipped through one. There were several magazines too, weekly and monthly magazines, and 5 brand new videos, still in their plastic wrap. She had no idea who had chosen them, but they were all new movies she had never seen. She was not in the habit of going to movie theaters, so there were always a lot of new films that she missed. There were 3 brand new sweaters in a large department store shopping bag in different thicknesses. There were 2 thick flannel shirts and 4 long-sleeved t-shirts. All of them were in plain fabric and simple designs. They were all the perfect size. There were also some thick socks and tights. If she was going to be here until December, she would need them. Her handlers knew what they were doing. She took the clothes into the bedroom and folded them to store in drawers and hung them on hangers in the closet. She had gone back to the kitchen and was drinking coffee when the phone rang. It rang 3 times, stopped, then rang again. "Did you get everything?" Tamado asked. "Yes, thank you. I think I have everything I need now. The exercise equipment is more than enough. Now I just have to crack open Proust." "If there is anything that we've overlooked, don't hesitate to tell me." "I won't," our mommy said, "though I don't think it would be easy to find anything you have overlooked." Tamado cleared his throat. "This might not be my business, but do you mind if I give you a warning?" "Go right ahead." "Unless you have experienced it, being shut up in a small place by yourself, unable to see or talk to anyone else, is not the easiest thing in the world. No matter how tough a person might be, eventually he is going to make a sound, especially when someone is after you." "I haven't been living in very spacious places up till now." "That could be an advantage," Tamaru said. "Still, I want you to be very careful. If a person remains tense for a long time, he might not notice it himself, but it's like his nerves are a piece of rubber that has been stretched out. It's hard to go back to the original shape." "I'll be careful," our mommy said. "As I said before, you're a very cautious person. You're practical and patient, not overconfident. But no matter how careful a person might be, once your concentration slips, you will definitely make 1 or 2 mistakes. Loneliness becomes an acid that eats away at you." "I don't think I'm lonely," our mommy declared. She said this half to Tamaru and half to herself. "I'm all alone, but I'm not lonely." There was silence on the other end of the phone. as if Tamaru were giving serious thought to the difference between being alone and being lonely. At any rate, I'll be more cautious than I have been, Aomami said. Thank you for your advice. There's one thing I'd like you to understand, Tamaru said. We will do whatever we can to protect you, but if some emergency situation arises, what that might be, I don't know, you may have to deal with it yourself. I can run over there as fast as possible and still might not make it in time. Depending on the situation, I might not be able to get there at all. For instance, if it is no longer desirable for us to have a connection with you. I understand completely. I plan to protect myself with the bat and with the thing you gave me. It's a tough world. Wherever there's hope, there's a trial, Aomami said. Tamaru was silent again for a moment, and then spoke. Have you heard about the final tests given to candidates to become interrogators for Stalin's secret police? No, I haven't. A candidate would be put in a square room. The only thing in the room is an ordinary small wooden chair, and the interrogator's boss gives him an order. He says, "Get this chair to confess and write up a report on it. Until you do this, you can't leave this room." Sounds pretty surreal. No, it isn't. It's not surreal at all. It's a real story. Stalin actually did create that kind of paranoia, and some 10 million people died on his watch, most of all his fellow countrymen. And we actually live in that kind of world. Don't ever forget that. You're full of heartwarming stories, aren't you? Not really. I just have a few set aside just in case. I never received a formal education. I just learned whatever looked useful as I experienced it. Wherever there's hope, there's a trial. You're exactly right. Absolutely. Hope, however, is limited and generally abstract, while there are countless trials and they tend to be concrete. That is also something I had to learn on my own. So, what kind of confession did the interrogator candidates extract from the chairs? That is a question definitely worth considering, Tamaru said. Sort of like a Zen koan. Stalinist Zen, Aomami said. After a short pause, Tamaru hung up. That afternoon, she worked out on the stationary bike and the bench press. Aomami enjoyed the moderate workout, her first in a while. Afterward, she showered, then made dinner while listening to an FM station. In the evening, she checked the TV news, though not a single item caught her interest. After the sun had set, she went out to the balcony to watch the playground, with her usual blanket, binoculars and pistol, and her shiny brand new bat. If Tengo doesn't show up by then, she thought, I guess I will see out this enigmatic year of 1Q84 in this corner of Koenji, one monotonous day after another. I'll cook, exercise, check the news and work my way through Proust, and wait for Tengo to show up at the playground. Waiting for him is the central task of my life. Right now, that slender thread is what is barely keeping me alive. It's like that spider I saw when I was climbing down the emergency stairway on the Metropolitan Expressway number 3. A tiny black spider that had spun a pathetic little web in a corner of the grimy steel frame and was silently lying in wait. The wind from under the bridge had blown the spider web which hung there precariously, tattered and full of dust. When I first saw it, I thought it was pitiful, but right now, I'm in the same situation. I have to get a hold of a recording of Janacek's Sinfonietta. I need it when I'm working out. It makes me feel connected. It's as if that music is leading me to something. To what, though, I can't say. She made a mental note to add that to the next list of supplies. It was October now. There were less than 3 months left of her reprieve. The clock kept ticking away, ceaselessly. Aomame sank down into her garden chair and continued to watch the slide in the playground through the plastic blinds. The little children's playground looked pale under the mercury vapor lamp. The scene made Aomame think of deserted hallways in an aquarium at night. Invisible, imaginary fish were swimming noiselessly through the trees, never halting their silent movements. And 2 moons hung in the sky, waiting for Aomame's acknowledgement. "Tengo," she whispered, "where are you?" End of chapter.